Let's talk about something uncomfortable. You spent 3 years getting a BCom degree, 3 years of accounts, economics, taxation and law. You walked out with that degree in hand. And then what? Nothing. No dream job, no clarity. Just a vague sense that you need to do something more. CA, MBA, government exams. The pressure is real, but here's the truth, it's not your fault. BCom is the foundation of how global business runs. But in today's market, a degree is just a ticket to the stadium. It doesn't really get you into the field. That's why one name keeps coming up in every serious finance conversation, the US CMA. But before you even think about going down that path, there's one question you can't afford to ignore. What does it really take to turn this into something that actually pays a high salary? Okay, I already know what's going through your head right now because I've heard it 100 times in the comments. It's a US-based certification. Will anyone in India even care about it? And right after that, people say it's priced in dollars, I'm earning in rupees, it'll be super expensive. This just isn't for me. And look, I get it. Those are completely fair concerns, but here's what I want you to do. Don't make a decision based on assumptions when we can just look at the actual numbers instead. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go line by line through every single cost involved in getting the US CMA in India. But before we start, I need you to shift one thing in your head. Stop asking, how much does this cost? And start asking, how much does this cost relative to what it gives me back? Because that's the only version of the question that actually matters. Hold that thought, because by the end of this video, you'll have your answer. So let's start at the very beginning. Before the exam, before the study material, and before any of that, the first thing you need to do is join the Institute of Management Accountants. Think of it as buying your entry ticket to the room where the certification lives. No membership means no exam. It's as simple as that. If you're a student or a recent graduate, you're looking at $39 a year. That's roughly 3,300 rupees a year. Honestly, for what you're getting access to, that's basically free. But if you're already a working professional, that number jumps significantly to $295 a year, which is 25,000 rupees. Same membership, very different price tag. And then come the exam fees, which is where the real money goes. Since it's a 2-part exam, you're paying for each part separately. If you fall into the student category, both parts together come to roughly 57,000 rupees. If you're a professional, you're looking at around 76,000 just for the exams. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is adding up really fast, right? And you're right, it is. But don't react to it just yet, because we're still only looking at part of the cost. And trust me, the full picture is where things actually start to make sense. Most people stop their calculation here. They account for the membership, they budget for the exam fees and assume they've covered everything. What usually gets missed is the cost of good study material. And that's where the numbers start to really shift. Good CMA study material isn't cheap and isn't meant to be cheap at all. These are structured, exam-focused systems designed to actually get you through the program. And they can cost anywhere between $300 to $500 per part, which comes out to roughly 50,000 rupees to 80,000 rupees, depending on what you choose. Now, if you also want structured classroom learning or coaching on top of that, you're looking at an additional 30,000 to 70,000 rupees. At this point, the total cost does go up, but so does your return. Because, better preparation can help you clear faster and get more value out of it. Which brings me to the part of this video that most people creating content about the CMA course conveniently skip over. The pass rate. The global pass rate for the US CMA sits at 45 to 50%. Let that land for a second. That means statistically, 1 in every 2 people who sit for the exam do not pass on their first attempt. And here's the brutal part. If you're in that half, you don't get a discount on the retake. You don't get a second chance at a reduced rate. You pay the full exam fees again, from scratch, with no exceptions. What does that mean in real terms? One failed attempt on a single part adds 30,000 to 40,000 rupees straight back onto your total instantly. There are no discounts, no second chances at a lower price. You pay again in full. And just like that, your carefully planned budget isn't a plan anymore, it's a leak. Now I want you to be very clear here. I'm not saying this to scare you away from this certification. I'm just saying this because this is exactly where most people get it wrong. I had a friend, let's call him Amit. He was a smart guy, strong basics, BCom background. He looked at the syllabus and thought, this is manageable. I'll just self-study and save the coaching money. First attempt, he underestimated the exam part, failed. The second attempt, he tried again, but this time with pressure. Not just academic pressure, financial pressure. Every mock test felt heavier because he knew another 30,000 to 40,000 rupees was on the line. And in the end, he didn't just spend more money than he planned. He spent more time, more energy, and dealt with way more stress than he ever expected. That's the part no one talks about. It's not just the cost of the course, it's the cost of getting it wrong. And this is exactly why a lot of people choose structured coaching. Not because they can't study on their own, but because they don't want to risk paying twice for the same exam. They'd rather invest upfront. They'd get proper guidance, they'd understand the pattern and clear it on the very first attempt. The people who go in knowing this don't treat it casually. They prepare properly, they take it seriously, and more often than not, they're the ones who clear it. So consider this your motivation, not your warning sign. So let's bring it all together because you deserve a clear, honest number, not a vague range that means nothing. If you are a student and you go in with proper coaching, you stay consistent and clear both parts on your first attempt, your total investment typically lands somewhere between 1.4 to 1.7 lakh rupees. That's your best case. Everything goes right scenario, but with structured support built in. If you're a working professional, you factor in the higher membership fees, you invest in good coaching, and you realistically account for the possibility of one retake on one part. Now you're looking at 2 to 2.5 lakh rupees. That's the real number. It's not a brochure number, it's the real number. Now here's where most people stop. They just look at their numbers and pause. But what really matters is what you're actually paying for and how much you can reduce it. For example, if you're enrolling through a structured program like the one offered by us, Imarticus Learning, you're not just paying for coaching, you're also getting cost efficiencies built into the journey itself. In many cases, that can mean around 20% off on coaching fees, close to 45% off on IMA registration, and up to 35% off on exam fees, which can materially bring down your overall investment. And once you factor that in, the effective cost starts looking a lot more controlled and a lot more intentional. Also on top of that, one thing people are genuinely scared of is, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? But here, you don't really have to carry that pressure. You just handle the IMA registration and Imarticus Learning takes care of the rest. Which basically means Imarticus Learning will stay with you till you get through. Now we can finally answer the question we've been building towards this entire video. Is it really worth it? A US CMA working at a Big 4 firm or a well-placed MNC in India typically starts somewhere around 8 to 10 lakh per annum. Even if you spend the absolute maximum, say 2.5 lakhs, you recover that entire investment within roughly 8 to 10 months of your first paycheck. Not years, months. Sit with that for a second, because there aren't many credentials or courses that can realistically offer that kind of return in that kind of time frame. So here's where I'll leave you. Certifications on their own don't change careers. A piece of paper doesn't walk into an interview and impress anyone. What changes careers are people who show up prepared, who put in the work when it was hard, and who have the credentials to prove it. The US CMA is simply the most credible proof you can carry in the world of management accounting, and now you know exactly what it costs to earn it. So I want to ask you one honest question before you close this video. If someone transferred 1.5 lakhs into your account right now and said, invest in yourself, would you do it? Or would you find another reason to wait, another excuse to put it off for like 6 months or more? Your answer to that question tells you more about where your career is going than any certification